The following program is sponsored by the Building Wisconsin Television Network.
Great to see you again, Craig. Welcome back to Building Wisconsin. And it's been about a year since we last spoke. How are things at the DOT? Are we making any progress towards repairing our transportation system?
Well, it's great to see you, Stu, and thanks for having me back. And to answer your question, we are. Since 2019, we've fixed more than 5,800 miles of roads across the state and over 1,600 bridges. Now, we got a lot more miles and a lot more bridges to fix, but that's a lot more than we were able to get in the decades prior to that.
And what you're talking about there is transportation infrastructure. And to me, what that means is our highways, roads, and bridges. That's the lifeblood of our communities here in our state. They keep us connected, allow us to move efficiently and safely if they're constructed and maintained properly, right?
That's absolutely right. How we engineer the roads has a lot to do with the safety, and I know safety is the most important for all of us. Across any area that we live in the state, safety is number one, whether it's getting our kids safe to school, getting home from work, whatever it might be. But it's also so vitally important for economic development in this state. We're an agriculture, tourism, manufacturing state. Those are the three most economic dependent industries that you can have. And they're also three of the most transportation dependent to their bottom line. So the more that we can make this transportation network efficient for them, the better our economy will do.
Sure, and the project that we're going to visit on today's show with Terry McGowan is perfect. I looked at the DOT project overview and it talked about all different facets and why it's being done. Safety is at the forefront, but just look at it here. I mean, we're talking major interchange, a diamond interchange. We're talking about traffic circles, local roads, state roads, federal roads. I mean, there's a lot going on here.
You couldn't be more right. It involves the Federal Highway Administration, the state DOT, Dane County, Ho-Chunk Nation is nearby here. They've had input. So the coordination across all those levels of government. Federal Highway Administration, we have to put our plans and we have to get engineering approved. We have to get the environmental approved. We've got our state. All of those different levels have to be coordinated. We have to get those approved. We also go through public information meetings. Wherever the project is in the state, we invite the public in. They get to see the renderings of these. They get to have input as we're making decisions on how it's going to look. So it reflects what the people in the community really want.
Sure. Well, in addition to talking about transportation infrastructure, we're also talking about the need for ongoing sustainable funding at the state level, because I know there's a lot of federal money on the way from the last show we were on.
There is. The president signed the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law a couple years back now, and we've started to see that money. That lasts for 5 years. We know the increased money we're going to get over the next 5 years here in Wisconsin, which is about a 25% increase in what we were getting, or about an additional $1.1 billion over those 5 years. And of that, we've been getting the vast majority out to our local units of government. About 70% of that money is going out to our cities, villages, towns, and counties. We've already got it out on over 500 local projects for the first couple of years of the funding. We know we've got 3 more years of that. We've got projects going on every town, every county in the state on their local roads. But we've also got Interstate 41 between Appleton and Green Bay, for those of you that go to the Packer games and get to that narrowed area, that's going on. The Blotnick Bridge between Superior and Duluth is going to be a major project. We're still in the studying phase of that, but that's going to be a mammoth project going on up there. The North-South Corridor in La Crosse, which had been put off for literally 20 to 30 years, we're in the final stages of moving on. And then just all of the town roads, those first mile, last mile roads that facilitate our agriculture and all of our local businesses.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. I remember also from our last show, you said you have folks down at the DOT that are willing and able to help with the process of that, because at a local town board in a rural Wisconsin, they might not understand, or they might be a little leery of contacting the state and asking for money, but is it still true that you can help them?
Absolutely, because for a lot of our smaller towns, villages, even counties, They're able to access some of this federal money for the first time, which is wonderful. But they don't all have an engineer on staff. They don't all have the capacity to be able to interact with that federal money and sometimes the strings that go along with it. So we've been doing what we can to be able to help them. We've got a website right now, wisconsindot.gov/BIL, where we've got a lot of frequently asked questions. We've got templates for them. We've got areas to help them. But we're also proposing in this state budget some actual dollars to be able to bring on consultants that we can go out and help them get their plans from concept to the point that they're ready to be built.
Oh, that is awesome. And you said in the next budget, that's what we're talking about, ongoing state funding, sustainable state funding for these types of projects. And that's great we're getting that federal money, $1.1 billion. That's a heck of a lot of money. A viewer out there might look and say, $1.1 billion? Why do we need to support it with more state funding on an ongoing basis?
Well, first of all, even for the federal money that comes in, we have to have state matching dollars for a lot of those projects in the first place. Okay. But whether it's at the state level or the federal level, we have gone a generation, more than a generation, without having this kind of an increase. So it is more money coming in, but we have deferred maintenance on these local roads, these state highways, these interstates for a long time. So it's getting us back. We finally have gotten some increases. We've come to agreement with the governor and legislature over the last couple budgets. We've got a proposal in this budget to increase it again by taking sales tax dollars from electric vehicles that generally go into the general fund and put those into the transportation fund. But just because we've got a couple years of progress, that's not enough. It's got to be over time sustainable for projects like this that take 5-6 years just to get to this point. We've got those going on all over the state, and we need to be able to keep this momentum going so that we can continue to make progress and have people know that they can plan for that in the most efficient way possible.
And that's probably the real reason why we need it to be ongoing, sustainable at a state level, because the companies out there, the individuals that are working on these projects, they need to be able to plan with some sense of assurance that these will be a viable project if it doesn't start for 5 to 10 years down the road.
That's absolutely right. If you're a county government and you're planning the amount of roads you're going to want to do, you're going to want to know for your workforce, for your equipment. If you're only going to get 2 years of increased funding and it's going to go back down again, you're not going to be able to make that decision. If you're in the private sector, you're a contractor, you're going to have to know how many folks you want to bring on, what kind of equipment you're going to need to buy, and you need to know what the horizon is before you're going to invest significant money in that. So if we have certainty where that federal funding is going to come from, we can spend those dollars a lot more efficiently than if we start and stop and have to start studies, stop studies, and do those things. The more certainty there is, the more efficient we can use the dollars.
And it comes back to what you initially said. This doesn't happen overnight. This has taken 5 or 10 years of planning.
Absolutely.
To actually get to this stage where they're actually moving dirt.
That's absolutely right.
Okay, are you optimistic about the future of transportation in our state?
I'm really optimistic. We've made more progress in the last 4 years than we had in the previous 20. And we know that there's these great apprenticeship programs out there. We're going to have the workers out there to do it. We've got the companies that know that there's some level of stability for the next 5 years so they can get the equipment they need. We know we've got at least 3 more years of that increased federal money coming in. And we've got another budget at the state level that we're looking at increasing the state share into transportation as well. So I believe we can continue to chip away at all of these areas that have been neglected for decades.
Wow, it's great to finally get some good news out of state government, that's for sure. Really appreciate you coming on today's show. We'll catch up with you again in the future.
Thanks for having me, Stu.
Terry, great to see you again and great to have you back here on Building Wisconsin. You know, I was just talking with Secretary Thompson about this particular project down near Madison, but it's really representative of many projects that are currently going on in the state, and to look into the future, there's a lot of projects. This one seemed to center around safety, didn't it?
It did, Stu. This is one of the projects that DOT has addressed on 1218, where there's been a lot of fatalities. There's too many crossovers on this stretch and cars coming out in front of fast-moving traffic. And this is what the infrastructure improvements are all about, Stu. Saving lives and preventing these fatalities. So we're out here right now doing everything we can to make our roadways safer.
And that is why we wanted to have you on today's show, because this is a perfect representation of what your members are working on. And when we talk about transportation infrastructure, that's what we're talking about in this show anyways. We're talking about our highways, roads, and bridges and improving them. And right there is that County Road AB that crosses 4 lanes that you just alluded to. And the viewers can look, and I'm sure we've gone through many intersections like that around the state. They are dangerous, and it's great that the DOT's taking this on.
I know, Stu, a lot of times we talk about moving commerce and keeping traffic jams out of the way. We have to address this issue. Too many people, too many fatalities, too many accidents right here on AB in 1218.
Sure. Okay, so let's get into what your members are up to on a daily basis out here as this project's going on.
Okay, well today we're going to see earth movers, we're going to see cranes, we're going to see excavators out digging sewer trenches, and this is all going on at one time. And the unique part about that, Stu, is it's all being done by the same contractor, RG Huston.
Oh, really? That is unique, isn't it? Because you have many signatory contractors, but usually there's more than one on a particular job site.
Yeah, no, actually they came out, they did the clearing and grubbing, they're doing the earthwork, doing the bridge work, doing the sewer and water, both sanitary and storm. Heck, Stu, they're even producing the aggregate and gonna lay the 190,000 ton of aggregate is going on this project.
Wow, that is an enormous amount, and what a great story to share with everybody. One signatory contractor doing all the work here with your members. You touched on storm sewer. I know in our last show we talked about how important the little things that are out of sight, out of mind are to road construction. Storm sewer is at the forefront because when it rains a lot, that water's got to go somewhere.
That's right, Stu. Every installation we've talked about displacement of water, because a new road bed is not good if every time a deluge comes out, that road bed's going to flood. No. That's why they've got all this new storm sewer going in. They're going to displace the water in a proper sequence. There's going to be mitigation ponds on this project so that you're not traveling 5 miles with a storm sewer.
Okay, gotcha. And so is that what's going on right down here on the south side of 12 and 18?
That's what's going on. We got 4 crossings between the sanitary and the storm sewer. They're going to have 4 open cuts. They're going to divert the traffic. They're going to do it with live traffic without shutting the road down, and they're going to get those pipe in and across the road.
Boy, talk about safety of the utmost importance. They're working around live traffic doing those open cuts, not to mention the guys down in the open cuts.
Yeah, amen to that, brother.
So, okay, so down there's a lot of sewer and storm sewer work going on and some open cuts.
Yeah.
I look down here to the south, it looks like a heck of a lot of dirt was moved.
Yeah, there's a lot of dirt. There's actually 550,000 yards of dirt being moved on this project. A lot of what you see lined up over there is all the storm sewer and the basins. You'll also see some sanitary. The green pipe is going to be the sanitary that's going to move through.
It's an incredible transformation already from when I've driven by here just a year ago. Craig said they started this in September. They're really making some good headway.
They're making really good headway right now. And I think a lot of that has to do with the one contractor performing so much of that work themselves, because everybody learns to work as a team and to work in concert, and everybody is well trained.
Awesome. Well, let's head over here near the future overpass and see some of the equipment they're using.
Okay.
Boy, looking around this portion, you can really see where all that dirt was moved. 550,000 yards, and you said it was moved. Where did it all go?
Well, they balance it out, Stu. I mean, some of it goes to the ramp, some of it goes to the bridge approach. Everything balances out, and that's how the plans are drawn, and that's how they figure it out.
Boy, it is awesome, and I love seeing the guys in action. Tell us a little bit about what I'm looking at here. This looks like it's an on-ramp to 12 and 18?
Yeah, this eventually will be an on-ramp. What they're doing down below is digging a mitigation pond. Now, a lot of that soil is coming out wet. So when it comes out wet, they're going to take it off to a dump site. If it's good engineered soil, they're going to bring it here on the ramp. They're going to push it off of the bulldozer, and they're going to compact it with what we call a sheep's foot drum compactor.
I've always wondered why there's these knobs on that particular style of compactor.
Well, they're designed, Stu, for chunks of clay to break up the soils so that they get better compaction. You can't get compaction if everything's coming in as a clump. So
Oh, so it breaks it up and compacts it properly.
that's right.
And
That's
so
right.
if there weren't clay and big chunks, you might see a smooth roller.
Yeah, no, if we were in sand country, you'd see a smooth roller, or you'd see a 824, 814, which is a large rubber-tired dozer.
Sure. And I can see that. You said they take that wet soil and dump it over at a dump pile. Is that so that it drains out and then they can use it once it's dry?
It drains out, or they're just using it for a fill area. A lot of times it's kind of a risk if you try to wait for it to dry out and then bring it back into where you need engineered soil.
Okay, how many members are working on this site?
Right now we got 20 members, Stu, and we have 4 apprentices working here as well.
Wow, that's awesome that this contractor elects to have apprentices on here, because really that's the future of the industry. Tell me a little bit about that contractor.
Well, RG Huston started out as pretty much a highway landscaping company. Years ago, they were partnering with somebody else, and they continued to work hard. They worked their way up in the highway industry, and now they're a major general contractor. And as you can see, they general contract mostly to themselves on this project because they're self-performing so much of this work themselves, which is really unique.
And you know, it's not unlike a lot of your contractors that we've talked about in the past, how as they grow, you can help them grow because you're providing that highly skilled, highly trained workforce to help them along the way.
Absolutely. As far as certifications go, as far as training goes, as far as supplying apprentices goes, we're there and we're partnering with RG Huston.
Oh, and here's the mitigation pond you were talking about, and as I look to the south, I see where there's a drain pipe, and you can see it's already dumping water into this. So a pond like this, it isn't just for the end result, it helps during the construction process.
It does. I mean, there was actually a massive dewatering project going on this site, which was also done by RG Huston themselves. So it tells you that there's a high groundwater level and there's an accumulation of water in the area. 4 retention ponds on this project, Stu.
Wow, again, water management, it's crucial to the success of our highway, road, and bridges projects.
Yeah.
And then, so down here, what's the equipment using? I see a dozer.
Yeah, we got a dozer down there doing the embankment for the pond, and then we have the excavator. Now, you watch that excavator, it'll choose whether it's going to take the dry fill and dump it over here on the ramp and compact it to be part of it, or to take the wet fill down towards the water line and send that off to the dump.
I mean, look at that, how he's just feathering right along there, being careful not to get the bucket or the teeth into the water, and I suppose that's because he wants to keep it segregated, the dry stuff from the wet. And then as I look at that dozer working on that slope, I'm always worried it's gonna flip in, but there's never a worry of that with these guys running.
He knows what he's doing down there. They certainly know how to bank a pond like this without putting her in the drain.
That's good, a good thing, that's for sure. Okay, let's move on to the eye candy, as I call it. Those beautiful cranes, how are those going to be used?
Well, so far those cranes have been used to drive piling and to pour these piers you'll see out in the middle. That's going to be the center of the bridge. Now what's going to happen tonight is they're going to walk each crane on either side of this road, and they're going to build the abutments, and then they're going to set the beams for the bridge.
And so those cranes will be pretty much stationary for the remainder of the project once they're in place.
Correct. So that's going to be quite an operation too. This bridge is going to be part of the safety. This bridge is going to bring cross traffic across 1218 without contending with the oncoming traffic.
That is great. And as I look at all these highly skilled professionals operating the equipment, I can't help but marvel at the training they get up at Coloma to make it all possible.
That's right, Stu. We put a lot of money towards training at our school in Coloma. I mean, the apprentices, the journey workers, everybody gets, they get their certifications for MSHA, OSHA. They also get upgraded on much of the technology that's being evolved in our industry. A lot of the equipment you see right now has onboard computers. These onboard computers get more and more advanced as the years go by. So we upgrade our operating engineers so that they understand the technology, where it's going and how it functions.
And you know, I love going up and visiting Coloma, especially out on the field aspect of it, because you'd be hard pressed to know it's not a DOT project, and that's the training. I mean, you mentioned the bridge abutments, you meant the pilings going down, the water, the sewer work, everything gets trained at Coloma.
It gets if you go drive through Coloma, another thing you'll see are the roundabouts. We are building DOT spec roundabouts up there with plans that Wisconsin DOT actually supplies us with, so that when our students come out here, they know exactly what they're doing, they know exactly what DOT wants, and they produce it.
That's awesome to hear. Now, like all the trades, I mean, the workforce is aging. And talking to Craig, there's so many projects on the horizon. Have you given thought to that? I mean, how are you going to replace these professionals with the next generation? What are you doing to supply the workforce in the future?
You know, Stu, it's funny you ask. For the past 10 years, we've been preparing for a boom. For some reason, we had this feeling it was coming. Our Destinations Career Academy are reaching out to high school students to let them know that the work is going to be there. If you want to work with your hands, we have the opportunities for you. So our recruiting is paying off right now. After 10 years of doing this, so far we're able to meet the needs. Right now we have 900 apprentices in our program, Stu. We are looking at a possibility of 1,200 students in our apprenticeship program, just to meet the needs of the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act.
Wow, that is awesome to hear. And your members have the foresight that, as we mentioned last time, you guys are adding, what was it, a $20 million addition? How's that coming along?
That's right, Stu, and it's coming along just wonderful. We have to be able to accommodate all the new apprentices that are coming into our program. As it was last training season, unfortunately, we had to turn some students down because we simply didn't have the classroom space.
Oh my gosh.
Next year we will, and it's expanded exponentially, and it's something to see.
And best of all, there's no tax dollars in that. That's all member funded, right?
That is our members paying for that project. Our members investing in the future of this program. Our members investing in this industry.
Terry, it's awesome to have you out on today's show. It's always great to get out to a job site, and it's even more fun when we get up to Coloma. Maybe we can do that in our next show.
Yeah, let's do that. I like having you up there.
These are operating engineers. They operate top-of-the-line, innovative machines and build stuff that matters. And operating engineers are well paid. They even get paid to train. As an apprentice, you can make $56,000 a year from day one. During training, no school loans and no debt. When your training is complete, you'll have a stable career job that is high skill, high tech, and high pay. We need operating engineers right now. Your future can begin today.
Welcome to Building Wisconsin, Mark. Great to have you on today's show. And so far we've been talking with Secretary Thompson from the Wisconsin DOT about transportation infrastructure and the need for ongoing funding for projects like this for highways, roads, and bridges. We also have spoke with Terry McGowan from Operating Engineers 139, and he showed us what his guys were up to on this project in particular and how they're prepared to provide a highly skilled, highly trained workforce for us in the state. So we don't have to worry about these future projects and not having the skilled workforce to do it. We wanted to finish up today's show with you to learn how things are moving on a local level. So let's begin with who you work with and what your role is.
Well, first off, let me say, Secretary Thompson, Terry McGowan, I'm glad you had those two gentlemen on earlier today. Two great builders of this state and two people that see the future, and the future is very bright for Wisconsin. I'm Mark O'Connell of the Wisconsin Counties Association. I represent county government at the state and federal level. We try to get done whatever it is counties want to get done. And one of the things we want to get done is building our infrastructure to connect our citizens and position our state for future success.
And that's perfect to have you on today's show, because I firmly believe that our transportation infrastructure is the lifeblood of our small communities that make Wisconsin special.
Oh, it's absolutely. I mean, this project right here, we're going from Madison to Cambridge, small community in Dane County, but there are communities all over this state that are connected to other areas. Peshtigo, Marinette, Cassville, Brule, all over this state, and there's construction going on. But what that really says, when you see construction going on, that's success. That is laying the brickwork for a very bright future.
And those small communities that you're alluding to, I mean, they're really the fabric of who we are. And you're saying that transportation infrastructure is the thread that connects us, right? And it's important that the small communities thrive.
Well, we can't go 20, 30 miles in this state without seeing some small community where people are raising their families, working hard, and trying to be a success. That's very unlike our neighbors, for example, in Minnesota. I mean, we like to compare ourselves to Minnesota. It's a great state, but you can go an hour without seeing a small community. Very different. Here in our state, yes, the small communities are the lifeblood, and for those small communities to be successful, they need to be connected with infrastructure.
Okay, so that's why we need to keep investing. There's already some federal money coming in, and Craig alluded to the fact that he goes, I wanted that money to get to the state level, the local municipalities as quickly as possible.
Secretary Thompson has been outstanding about taking federal money, state money, and getting it down to actual local projects. Projects like this, projects that have occurred all over the state of Wisconsin, just outstanding. The partnership between the state of Wisconsin and local government under this administration, especially Craig Thompson, has been just incredible.
That's great to hear. So I happen to live in a small township out in western Dane County, town of Barry. If our township, for instance, or any of them throughout the state have questions, maybe they're a little hesitant, maybe they don't understand the process. He said there's folks at the DOT that can help them. Is that the same with the counties association, or is there help out there for individuals who might not have the knowledge or the ability to do it themselves?
Well, I'm not going to promise that if you call the association, I'm going to come out and help you build a road. That's for the professionals and Terry and his group. But with the state of Wisconsin Department of Transportation, yes, they are very, very capable and very willing to help anyone who calls with regard to a project that they might have in mind. Doesn't mean that everything is going to get funded. What it does mean, though, is that everything is going to get heard.
That's great. So there's no reason for a township not to say, hey, we need this bridge fixed, we need this road repaired. Maybe there's some state or federal dollars there. Let's contact the state, and they're willing to help us and see if we can get some of that funding.
I've been in government for over 30 years. It's hard to recall a time, maybe during the Tommy Thompson years, where we've had more resources available to us than today.
So at the end of the day, it seems to me what you're saying is transportation infrastructure investment will lead to strong local economies, which ultimately makes living anywhere in Wisconsin a great place to live.
Well, I'll tell you, we have a big public sector in this state, but if we're going to succeed as a state, that means our private sector has to do really, really well. So we need to ask ourselves in government, what is it the private sector needs to be successful? Well, money to invest and build and grow, smart young talent, the #1 resource for private sector profit in the future, but probably most importantly, soft and hard infrastructure. Soft infrastructure like broadband everywhere you can breathe, and hard infrastructure to move people and product from where we are to where they need to be. Transportation infrastructure is absolutely critical to future success. There is no guarantee that if we have a good transportation infrastructure, no guarantee of economic success. But without it, that's a guarantee that we are not going to be successful. Fortunately, in this state, we see the future is bright, and we're building our way to that great future.
Couldn't agree with you more. I really appreciate you coming on Building Wisconsin.
Stu, always a pleasure.
The preceding program was sponsored by the Building Wisconsin Television Network.